They say every marriage has secrets, but I never thought mine would end with a legal notice on a hospital bed. My name is Monica Harris, and for 5 years I played the perfect wife to Liam, the man who swore we'd take over the world together. He had charm that could melt walls, a smile that could sell sin, and an ego too big for the penthouse we lived in. I used to love that confidence, the way he'd talk about our dreams like we were the next power couple. What he didn't know? I was already the power. I made 130 grand a year as a senior marketing exec at one of the top firms in Chicago. He thought I made 50. Cute, right? It started as protection. He was jealous of my career early on, made little jokes about how nice it must be to play office princess while he was grinding at a mid-level sales job. I didn't want to bruise his fragile pride, so I downplayed it. Oh, babe, I just handle campaigns. My boss does the big stuff. I even drove a car under the company lease so he wouldn't guess what my bonus checks looked like. Dumb move, because when I got sick, really sick, and ended up in the hospital for surgery, he took my silence as an opportunity. The night before my surgery, he kissed my forehead, said, "Don't worry, baby, I got you," and walked out the door. That was the last time he said it like he meant it. 2 weeks later, when I could finally check my phone, I saw the email from my lawyer. A divorce petition. No explanation. Just irreconcilable differences. I stared at that screen like it had slapped me. My hands shook so hard I dropped the phone. My nurse came rushing in thinking I was having another episode. I just laughed through the tears. "No," I said. "I'm fine. My husband just divorced me while I was sedated. Totally normal." But the real kicker? A week after I got discharged, I found out he wasn't just gone. He'd remarried. My assistant. Chloe. The same woman who used to bring me Starbucks, organize my travel, and tell me how inspirational my marriage was. I didn't even get angry at first. I went numb. Then the rage came like fire in my veins. I spent nights replaying everything. His fake affection, her forced smiles, the way they'd exchange glances during office parties. It had been happening under my nose. Ava, my best friend since college, was the first one to say it out loud. "Girl, he used you like a goddamn ATM." "I didn't even know how much I made," I muttered. "Exactly," she said. "He took the lifestyle without understanding the source. You built him a castle and he left you in the dungeon." That line hit. Because it was true. Every trip, every upgrade, every ounce of success had been bankrolled by me. Liam played the confident husband in public, but behind closed doors, he relied on my paycheck and my silence. After the initial heartbreak, something switched inside me. I wasn't going to be the sob story. I was going to be the plot twist. So while he flaunted his new perfect marriage on social media, new house, new car, same fake smile, I got to work. Quietly, patiently, strategically. I knew their kind of happiness wouldn't last, because you can't build stability on stolen love. A few weeks later, I returned to the office for the first time since surgery. Everyone stared. Whispers followed me through the hallway like perfume. Chloe's desk was empty. Good. But the new assistant, a nervous redhead named Jenna, told me Chloe had been promoted into my old interim position while I was gone. "She said you weren't coming back," Jenna said timidly. My stomach turned. "Oh, she did, huh?" I forced a smile. "Well, surprise." When I walked into my boss's office, he nearly choked on his coffee. "Monica, you look, wow, you're back." "Yeah," I said sweetly. "Heard my job got a little crowded while I was away." He stammered. "It was temporary. Chloe says a lot of things," I interrupted, taking a seat. "I assume you haven't signed off on her promotion paperwork yet." No, I wanted to discuss." "Good," I said. "Don't." He blinked. "Excuse me? I'll handle her."
The next week was a masterclass in psychological chess. I didn't scream, didn't throw shade. I smiled. I brought coffee to meetings. I complimented her outfits. I played the nice ex-boss. But every move was calculated. I started reassigning her projects, subtly rerouting client calls to myself, rewording her reports before they hit upper management. By the time she realized what was happening, her promotion looked more like a setup. I made sure of it. When the quarterly review came around, her numbers tanked. Liam showed up at my office one evening looking smug as hell. "You look good," he said, leaning against the doorframe. I didn't even stand up. "You look familiar. Can't quite place you." He smirked. "Come on, don't be like that. I thought we could talk." "About what? Your midlife crisis or your downgrade?" His smile faded. "You really don't get it, do you? I'm happy now. Chloe gets me." "Sure she does. She also got your debt, your bad credit, and your inability to finish anything you start. Congrats to her." He laughed awkwardly. "Still got that attitude, huh? Still got that insecurity, huh?" I replied, cold. He stepped closer. "You can act tough all you want, Monica, but you're alone. You'll always be alone. Nobody wants a woman who out-earns them." I tilted my head, smiling just enough to sting. "Guess that's why you settled for someone who doesn't." He left angry. Good, because while he was out there trying to prove he won, I was quietly building something he couldn't touch. I invested in a startup, a female-led one. Put part of my bonus into it under a Shell LLC. Then I reached out to a PR firm I trusted, one that specialized in social influence. "Let's make some waves," I told them. "Personal brand?" the director asked. "More like poetic justice," I said. 3 months later, Chloe was fired. Officially for performance issues, but unofficially because I'd made her look unreliable in front of the board. Liam's finances started cracking too. The house, the car, the honeymoon, all on credit. When the bills came due, he called me. I didn't answer. He texted, "You ruined my life." I typed back, "Correction, I just stopped financing it." But revenge is a long game, and I wasn't done. Because karma, darling, needed direction, and I was more than happy to steer it. What Liam didn't know was that I wasn't just rebuilding. I was already sitting on something that could destroy him and Chloe in one move. And when he tried to come crawling back, he'd learned the truth the hard way. I never stopped playing the game. I just changed the rules.
When you decide to stop being the sad subplot in your own life, the first thing you do is learn how other people move. I spent a lot of time watching Liam, the way a surgeon studies a beating heart. Calm, precise, cataloging every twitch. He'd always been good at performance. The jokes at parties, the hand on my lower back when a friend walked by, the way he'd say, "We're in this together," and mean it like it was a thing we both owned equally. I'd learned, too, to read people the way I used to read consumer data. Patterns, anomalies, small spikes that told a bigger story. Chloe's laugh was the spike. Her Instagram sunrise photos were the anomaly. And his bank alerts, the pattern that would choke him. After the lake house incident had fizzled and I'd watched Chloe disappear like she'd never existed, I started digging. Not like a jealous spouse with a magnifying glass. I did it like a strategist. If Liam had thought I'd be rattled and done, he hadn't met Monica Harris. I opened accounts, made calls, put a small team of contractors to work. Ava called it Monica Inc., and I took the compliment like a trophy. First, I needed receipts. Real ones. People lie, numbers don't. I subpoenaed nothing. I didn't need to. I leaned into the thing Liam had underestimated most, his laziness and his ego. He loved convenience. He loved autopay. He loved future automatic fixes. That meant he produced a breadcrumb trail. I ghosted into his world through the only door his ego left open, the joint credit cards and a shared rewards program his company had linked to my name years ago. I set up alerts.
Two-factor, burner emails, tiny transfers of $20 that would ping his accounts and see how his system flowed. When the night came that his mortgage payment bounced and the auto insurance alert pinged his phone, I smiled. Not because I wanted him broke, because I wanted leverage. Money talks in the language of consequences. Second, I needed an edge at work. The startup investment was a seed that would sprout into something bigger, but I also needed to tighten my grip on the narrative there. Chloe's departure had been sweet, but what I wanted was immutable control of the storyline that tied my reputation to the company and, by extension, to potential investors who'd be essential to the next move. I leaned on old friends on the board, quietly reminding them of campaigns I'd built that had increased the bottom line, nudging their memory with a soft, "Remember when Monica saved the Q2 launch?" People forget, but they also remember money. I reintroduced myself as indispensable, not as the fragile wife who disappeared for surgery. I gave a speech at a lunch, charisma thinly veiled as vulnerability, about resilience. They ate it up. I got my chair back, but it was different now. I sat with my shoulders squared, eyes scanning, waiting for the moment to use the information I'd been quietly harvesting.
That information included the little secrets the company kept in drawers that smelled like toner and old coffee. The ad agency that had landed our account had a CSO who liked her bourbon, and she liked me even more when I brought her lunch and didn't talk about KPI models. "You're the only person who sees what actually goes on," she'd told me, eyes slightly squinty as if the bourbon had made the world gentler. I fed her small, useful things, and in return, she forwarded a PDF once marked confidential, an acquisition proposal that included payment streams to shell orgs, the kind that looked legit if you squinted and criminal if you actually read. I saved it like a trophy. My PR firm friend was the third piece. I'd paid her in favors and in cash once, and favors compound. She knew how narrative moved. "We don't need to go scorched earth," she said over wine. "We go surgical. Reputation collapses on weak legs. We make the legs wobble and film it." She suggested a staggered leak, a whisper on a trade forum, a reporter who owed her a favor, a tip to a compliance blogger who loved scandal. We would slow drip the damage so that when regulators came knocking, the board would already be looking for scapegoats. I liked the cruelty of it: tidy, surgical, public. On the home front, Liam started to panic like a reality star who just realized his ratings were tanking. He tried the old maneuvers: charm offensive, gaslight, pity play. At a fundraising brunch he'd organized for a cause he just attached his name to, because branding greater than morality, he turned on the charisma the way a faucet turns on color. "Mon," he whispered later that afternoon in the kitchen, "I gotta talk to you. You're making things hard." I laughed out loud. "You mean for you? Good. That's the part I enjoy." He tried the sympathy. "You had surgery, babe, I thought. I thought you could replace me when I was down," I said. "And you did." He tried to look hurt. "You're being dramatic." "Maybe I am. Dramatic? Sure. But effective." That comment came from a place deep and cold. I'm not proud of the person who stirred that cauldron, but the truth is, anger is a mentor when it's cloaked in strategy. Then there was Chloe. Well, former Chloe. She wasn't as empty as Liam had hoped. Turns out, she'd always had ambition, but lacked the backbone to be ruthless. Her Instagram told a story she didn't realize I could read. Brunches with managers, tagged at networking events, and one too many photos of a white envelope. I followed the white envelope. It led to a discreet florist 2 blocks from town hall. I watched, the way everyone always watches, learning rhythm. White envelope means cash. Cash means bets on someone else's future. I traced the bouquet orders back to a private concierge who ran errands for executives with second lives. He answered my call like an old dog who recognized a treat. "Yes, we deliver for a lot of folks," he said. "We keep things quiet. You got a name?" I did. I told him I was checking into client billing. He sent me invoices, names blurred, dates, amounts, enough to see a pattern.
The flowers were a front for cash drops that matched the months his mortgage payments were late. Timing, my friends. Timing is everything.
I started to push, not recklessly, but with the casual cruelty of a chess player who's been 2 moves ahead for years. I arranged for an innocuous audit to look at vendor payments. It was like letting a dog find a bone. Once you put an auditor on a vendor who's good at hiding, you watch the rabbit warren collapse. Vendors get nervous, invoices get lost, someone starts pointing fingers, and when fingers point, people who took in more than they earned start hearing about it. That's when the text started. Liam, you're being petty. Me, you're being exposed. Liam, we can work this out. Me, I don't want to work this out. I want consequences. He replied, you're making a scene. I thought about sending back a photo of the invoices I'd routed to the compliance inbox, the ones with his name attached, but I didn't fire that salvo yet. Timing. Wait. Let the anxiety nest and preen. Let them think it's something small. Watch them build their own scaffolding around the lie, then pull the support. The collapse is more satisfying that way. Meanwhile, the startup I'd invested in, my secret seed money under that shell LLC, started to hum. I hadn't told Ava everything. Some plans are cleaner in the dark. The founder, a woman named Priya, was fierce and unfiltered. She'd been living off ramen and the generosity of angel investors with patience, and when I slid a convertible note her way, she lit up like it was Christmas. You believe in real product, she told me over a shaky Zoom with a hoodie and coffee. And I believed in her because she reminded me of the woman I'd been before white linen and champagne. Priya had a prototype, a buy-in from a small retailer chain, and an onboarding pipeline that would double within 6 months if we hit the marketing right. I had the means, she had the smarts. That combination is gasoline. As the wheels turned, audits, vendor anxiety, PR whispers, Liam started making mistakes. Human beings do when they're scared. He increased his credit access, he pushed for faster payouts at work, and he started to micromanage invoices he'd never once cared to understand. He also began to drink more. That was the part I hated, watching a man I'd once loved try to anesthetize himself with whiskey and bravado. But it worked in my favor. The more off balance he was, the clumsier his signature became. Plenty of law firms will tell you signatures are sacred. I'd learned signatures bleed truth.
We got our first real hit in public when an industry blog my PR friend fed with a soft leak ran a piece about supplier irregularities at Harris & Co. subsidiaries, the kind of headline that makes CFOs nauseous. Links proliferated. The board, ever protective of market value, called an emergency meeting. I sat in the back of that room and watched with the same hard, calm interest you watch a storm roll in. People who used to smile at dinner parties looked brittle. Executives avoided eye contact. Liam tried to enter with a swagger that would have been amusing if it wasn't so pathetic. He stopped at the doorway, realized this theater wasn't for him. Later that day, he sent 24 texts and 6 voicemails he thought I didn't see. I did. I saved him. He called my bluff. He called it many things. Petty, cruel, unjust. I called it what it was, accountability. The board appointed an interim committee to review vendor relationships. A woman on that panel, Cynthia, whose only fashion crime was wearing Prada like it was armor, looked at me and did not understand I was an ally. We need closure, she said in that clipped tone of executives who have no idea what real survival looks like. To them, money is math and loyalty is a PR stunt. To me, loyalty is blood. I quietly fed Cynthia a red thread detail about a shell account that, if traced, would show a chain into a charity that had once sponsored events for the mayor. Her eyes went cold. The mayor's office does not like cold. The wheels tightened. At home, the house stopped being neutral territory. Liam's calls got angrier, more personal. He started showing up at my office, an adult lost in an IKEA nightmare, interrupting meetings and trying to press charm into my hearing. "You don't have to burn bridges, Mon," he'd say, propping himself like a cartoon.
Once, mid-meeting, he walked in with a grin and a bottle of wine he'd clearly paid way too much for. Thought we could toast to... I interrupted. To what, Liam? Your inability to adult? It was harsh, but fair. He left angry, but when he left phone calls and records. He left evidence. It's funny what men do when they don't think the woman they left will dig. By month 3 of my quiet campaign, things were shifting. Chloe's name resurfaced in a few emails that an auditor subpoenaed. Petty gifts given in exchange for helpful invoice routing. Vendors who used to drop off fancy pastries stopped answering their phones. Liam, who'd always thought a suit could solve everything, realized suits cannot fake solvency. It culminated the day the bank called my number by mistake. No apologies, just a curt voice asking if I'd authorize a transfer on a joint account. Someone at the bank had left the line unsecure. It was the kind of mistake that topples kingdoms because it reveals access. He called me that night from a blocked number, sounding more like a boy than a man. "Monica, they're coming for me. You have to stop." I sat in my car outside a diner and laughed until I hadn't the energy to yell. "Stop what, Liam? Loving you?" Funny thing, already did that. As dramatic as it felt, the truth was simpler. I wanted him to feel the tremor of consequence, to understand that the life he treated like a buffet had bills, names, and signatures attached. You eat without asking the cook to put in more. That used to be his default. Now he learned hunger.
But revenge isn't just about collapse. It's about making the person who wronged you have a thorough, surgical understanding of what they lost. I charted the final phase the way investors plot exit strategies. The startup would need a big announcement. Timely, viral, unassailable. The PR firm would release a piece not about Liam, but about women reclaiming their power in the workplace. A feel-good piece with the stink. The audit results would leak, timed to coincide with the announcement. Investors would pull. The board would scramble. And somewhere in the middle of that chaos, financial regulators would pick up threads they'd previously ignored. On the last night before the release, Ava and I sat cross-legged on my floor with takeout, plotting tiny contingencies like generals. "If the board goes scorched, you'll need a press conference," she said. "Wear that blue dress. It says truth and lipstick." I smiled. "Blue and revenge. Got it." We clinked plastic forks. The city hummed like a beast outside the window. Somewhere between sips of lukewarm sesame chicken, I felt the old fear fold into something like clarity. The morning the piece hit, the reaction was immediate and delicious in its ugliness. Trades picked it up and ran numbers. My phone buzzed with emails from curious investors asking for calls. I forwarded a curated packet to the SEC liaison with the note. "Happy to help." I didn't need to tie the bow myself. I knew how regulatory fish like the juicy worm. The board posted a terse statement. Liam's hashtag brigade couldn't keep up with the slide. Within 48 hours, credit lines tightened. Vendors who had once winked at delinquency started calling for payment in full. Chloe's name, where it surfaced at all, was like a bad smell people pretended not to notice. He texted me again. "You're crossing a line." I typed back, calm like glass. "Lines exist because people draw them. You cleaned yours. I'm erasing mine." He replied, "You look like a monster." I saved it. Monsters have receipts. By the end of the week, an old friend in the press called 3 separate sources and found the threads I'd left dangling like breadcrumbs. The story got louder. It wasn't a single dramatic explosion. It was a slow, perfect erosion. The kind that leaves people scrambling for explanations while the records take their time to do what they do best: tell the truth. I walked through the office that week and the whispers shifted. People who had avoided eye contact now nodded like they'd been waiting for someone to write the script. But let me be real. All this audits, PR, startup glory didn't fill the hollow that was betrayal. There were nights I sat on the balcony and watched couples below who had no idea they were actors in their own small tragedies. And I felt something that wasn't triumph. It wasn't even victory. It was a hard, cold satisfaction, the kind you taste when you know the work is done right. I'd chosen it.
I chose to be the woman who moves while others sleep. One evening, as the sun bled into the river, I opened an envelope I'd received that morning. No return address, but just a single sheet of paper with one line typed in a cheap font. Play nice, Monica. The fall hurts harder when you're naked in the wind. I folded the paper and put it in my pocket. Threats are a language. I knew it well now. That line meant someone was scared, or someone was trying to spook me into stopping. That only told me one thing. The plan was working. I'd rattled cages, watched men squirm, and lit a match under a whole tangled web, but someone had just reminded me that they could still bite. When a black, unmarked envelope shows up on my driver's seat with a single picture inside, Liam and Chloe, smiling at an undisclosed location together, I realize my quiet war is about to get loud, and that the person who sends that picture isn't just a coward hiding in the bushes. They're the one who holds the next move.
When you've lived your whole life being the calm in everyone else's storm, the first time thunder rolls for you, it feels almost holy. That photo in the envelope, it wasn't fear that hit me first. It was curiosity. Liam and Chloe smiling at what looked like a marina. Blue sky, white yachts, and champagne flutes mid-toast. Except Liam was wearing a jacket I'd bought him last Christmas. And Chloe had on the diamond studs he once swore he couldn't afford for me. Cute. Real cute. I sat there in my car, the air conditioning humming like static, staring at that picture till the edges blurred. No note, no watermark, just that line from before echoing in my head. Play nice, Monica. Whoever sent it knew enough to rattle me, and they knew where I parked. That narrowed it down. Ava was the first person I called. "You're not going to believe this," I said, snapping a photo and sending it. She whistled. Okay, stalker vibes. Who the hell took that? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You think it's Liam? I hesitated. Liam's too dumb to play anonymous. He'd tag himself. Then it's someone who wants you to think it's him, she said. I nodded, staring out at the city like it was whispering back. Or someone who wants me to stop. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my balcony with a glass of bourbon, scrolling through the past. Photos, texts, flight logs, everything I kept because I'm the kind of woman who doesn't delete receipts. Patterns make sense when emotions cool off, and I was ice now. That picture wasn't new. Chloe's hairstyle, short bob, dark roots, was before my surgery, which meant whoever sent it wasn't documenting them now. They were showing me proof that they'd been watching then. I wasn't the only one playing the long game. The next morning, I drove to the office early. 6:30 a.m., empty garage, crisp silence. But there it was, a second black envelope tucked under my wiper. This time, no picture. Just a single business card. No name, just the logo of a private investigation firm downtown. Armitage and Company. Subtle. Too subtle. I called them from my office line mid-morning. The receptionist's voice was polite, maybe too polished. Armitage and Company, how may I direct your call? I said, "This is Monica Harris. Someone's using your stationery to threaten me." There was a pause, soft, loaded. "Ma'am, your name sounds familiar. One moment." The hold music was classical, fake sophistication for a shady business. When the man came on, his tone had the smooth authority of someone used to expensive secrets. "Miss Harris, this is Jonathan Armitage. I don't know who sent you that card, but I can tell you one thing. We haven't taken any cases under your name. Yet." Yet? Well, let's just say a gentleman inquired about a background check months ago on you. The words landed like cold steel. Who? I can't disclose that without a subpoena, but I can tell you this.
It was under a fake LLC tied to Harris Investments. My pulse jumped. That's Liam's company. Then your husband's either very careful, Jonathan said, or someone's using his name to dig where they shouldn't. When I hung up, my hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. Someone had paid to dig into my life, my accounts, my history, maybe even my private shell investments. If they connected my name to the startup or the PR funding, my entire revenge web could unravel overnight. This wasn't paranoia. This was exposure, and exposure kills strategy. By noon, I was in crisis mode. I called Ava to lock down the LLC paperwork, rerouted bank emails through encrypted channels, and deleted my browser history. Every click could be a window. Every friend could be a leak. Trust shrank to a currency I wasn't willing to spend. 3 days later, I found my first real clue. It came wrapped in a brunch invitation. The company's CFO, the bourbon-loving one, texted, "Need to talk off the record. Brunch?" I met her at a corner bistro with mimosas and the kind of tension that turns sugar sour. She didn't dance around it. "They're looking at you, Monica." "Who?" "The board, compliance, maybe regulators too. Someone leaked your LLC connections." I froze. That's impossible. She gave me a look that said, "Nothing's impossible." They think you're using inside info for personal gain. The timing's too neat. You fund a startup that happens to benefit from a contract pitch that your department greenlit. I felt the room tilt. That's not how it happened. I know, but they don't. And the worst part, the report came anonymously, through encrypted email. Someone's framing you, honey. It took every ounce of restraint not to slam my mimosa glass against the table. My perfect revenge web had turned on me. I'd become the story, the villain in my own narrative. I spent the rest of brunch pretending to smile while my mind burned with names and possibilities. Chloe? Maybe. She'd want payback for losing her job. Liam? Of course. But this had precision he'd never muster. Or someone from the board who'd realized how deep I'd been digging. That night, I went digital hunting. I pulled every message Chloe had sent during her employment. Her email access had been revoked, but backups existed. IT owed me favors. There it was, a single encrypted file, time-stamped weeks before she left. The file name was a date, the day of my surgery. My stomach twisted. I ran a decryption program. The file opened to reveal screenshots, dozens of them. My salary slips, internal invoices, bonus logs, private expense accounts, all sent from my computer. But here's the thing, I hadn't sent them. The metadata showed access from a second location, a mirrored login from an external IP the same night I was under anesthesia. Someone had logged in using my credentials while I was in the hospital. Someone who knew my passwords. Someone close. Liam. I sat back, staring at the glow of the screen, bile rising in my throat. He hadn't just left me, he'd robbed me. Data theft, identity compromise, the works. He'd planned it even before I went under the knife. The affair, the divorce, the setup, all part of the same ugly architecture. I'd been outplayed once, and I refused to be outplayed again. So I built a counterplan. Quiet, ruthless, clean. Step 1, I'd prove he accessed those files. Step 2, I'd expose whoever leaked them from inside the company. Step 3, I'd make sure both lost everything they'd built off my name. I called in a favor from an old cybersecurity consultant, Riley, a whiskey-drinking tech gremlin who owed me for a PR cover-up years ago. I need forensic proof of a data breach, I told him. Company or personal? Both. Someone try to bury you? I exhaled. Someone who already did. He laughed softly. Okay, revenge mode, I'm in, but it's gonna get messy. Messy is my middle name. Within a week, Riley sent me a digital audit. He found the hospital IP login traced to Liam's home network. He also found another ghost login routed through the company's server the following month. Guess whose credentials? Chloe's. She'd accessed my drives after I'd come back, which meant they'd both been in on it. She wasn't the innocent pawn I'd assumed. I stared at the evidence, rage simmering to something cold and surgical. Fine. You want to play with my life? Then I'll burn your safety nets. The next board meeting was tense. I could feel eyes on me like laser sights. The chairwoman cleared her throat. Monica, an anonymous report has raised questions about your affiliations. I met her gaze, calm, collected. Then let's talk transparency, I said, sliding a USB drive across the table. On that is proof of an internal data breach that occurred during my medical leave. You'll find access logs tied to 2 former employees, Liam Harris and Chloe Daniels. Both use confidential data to create narratives implicating me.
Silence fell like snowfall. The legal counsel's eyes widened as the screen lit up with logs, timestamps, IPs, cold, digital truth. How did you obtain this? She asked. I hired an independent analyst when I realized my financials were compromised, I said smoothly. Turns out, when your husband divorces you mid-surgery, he sometimes takes more than just your dignity. Murmurs rippled around the room. No one dared interrupt. The chairwoman cleared her throat again, visibly uneasy. We'll need to verify this through legal channels. Please do, I said. I've already sent copies to the SEC. Consider this me being cooperative. That moment was cinematic, like watching a chess match where every piece realized it was just a pawn. I'd walked into that room accused and walked out untouchable, but I wasn't celebrating because the game wasn't over. Someone had still sent me those envelopes, someone who wanted me to know I was being watched, and maybe that they were next. 2 days later, I got another delivery, hand-delivered this time. A man in a dark jacket dropped a small box at reception with my name scrawled on top. Inside was a flash drive. No note, no logo. Just a file named truth.mov. I should have walked away, should have deleted it. But curiosity kills logic. I plugged it in. The video opened to grainy footage. Security cam angle, time-stamped 6 months earlier. Liam, in my office, late at night, sitting at my desk, copying files. But that wasn't the part that froze my blood. Behind him, barely visible, was Ava, my best friend. She wasn't confronting him. She was helping him, passing him a stack of folders, whispering, smiling. I slammed my laptop shut. The world tilted. My throat went dry. No, not Ava. Not her. She'd held my hand through heartbreak, plotted revenge with me, eaten takeout on my floor, my sister and everything but blood. And she'd been playing me the entire time. Why? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. You wanted justice, Monica. Maybe you're not the only one who deserves it. That was the moment the fear finally hit. Not from Liam, not from Chloe, but from the realization that the person I trusted most might have orchestrated this entire damn thing. I stared out the window at the skyline, the city pulsing like a heartbeat, and whispered to myself, okay, Ava, you want war? Let's make it biblical. The next morning, I woke up to police sirens outside my building, and when I looked out, they weren't at Liam's house. They were at mine. Sirens at 6:42 a.m. hit different when they're for you. That low thrum under your ribs, the sound of your life about to split open. I remember standing barefoot in my kitchen, coffee halfway to my lips, watching red and blue lights reflect off the marble.
It looked cinematic if it weren't my damn life unraveling in real time. The knock came next. Sharp. Authoritative. Too polite to be friendly. Miss Harris, Chicago PD. I opened the door. 2 officers. 1 woman, 1 man. Both stone-faced. "We have a warrant to search the premises," the woman said. "Financial misconduct and data theft." My jaw went slack for half a beat. "You've got to be kidding me." "Afraid not, ma'am." She handed me the papers, signed, sealed, court approved. Someone had filed an official report linking my LLCs to insider trading. Whoever pulled that trigger wasn't playing small ball anymore. I stepped aside, calm mask on. "Knock yourselves out," I said, voice steady even though my pulse was tap dancing in my neck. They swarmed my apartment. Laptops, files, flash drives, even my freaking mail. The male officer paused at the shelf where Liam's old photo used to sit. "Ex-husband?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "He's the reason therapy exists." 2 hours later, they left. I stood in the silence they'd torn through, staring at the mess like it was a metaphor. My phone buzzed. Ava. "Of course." "Heard what happened. You okay?" I stared at the text so long the words blurred. She was either bold as hell or banking on me being too rattled to connect dots. I typed back, "You at your place?" She replied instantly, "Yeah? Want me to come over?" "No." I wrote, "I'll come to you." I didn't bother changing. I grabbed my keys, threw on a blazer over my tank, and drove across the city with my playlist blasting low. Songs from the life I used to have. The expensive, soft glow kind. The kind that makes heartbreak sound romantic. Ava's building was all exposed brick and overpriced candles. She opened the door like nothing was wrong. "Babe," she gasped, pulling me into a hug. "You okay? I saw the cops. What the hell's going on?" I pulled back slow, studied her face. Perfectly made up. Not a flicker of guilt. Damn, she was good. "You tell me," I said. Her brow furrowed. "What?" "You and Liam. The hospital footage. The files. The setup." "How long, Ava? Since before the surgery?" She blinked, then laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, come on, Monica. You think I was with him? That man couldn't seduce a Roomba." I crossed my arms. "Then explain why you're in that video."
Her smile faltered just enough to be real. She walked to the counter, grabbed a drink, took a long sip like she was buying time. "You really want to know the truth? Try me." She set the glass down, leaned forward. "Yeah, I helped him, but not how you think. He wanted your financials, said he needed proof you were hiding money from him before the divorce. I played along, fed him partial data, fake slips, old reports, enough to make him think he had the upper hand." I stared at her, cold fury rising. "And you didn't tell me because—" She shrugged, that same careless little motion that used to make me laugh. "Because you were obsessed with control. You didn't trust anyone with your secrets, not even me. I was tired of being your sidekick, tired of cleaning up your perfect girl messes while you played boss lady." I blinked, trying to process the whiplash. "So you framed me to teach me a lesson." She smirked. "Not frame, redirect. But yeah, maybe you needed a little humility." There it was. The venom wrapped in friendship, the devil in the damn friendship bracelet. I took a step closer. "You think this is humility? Watching me get raided by cops? You'll survive." She said casually, "You always do." And honestly, it's kind of poetic, don't you think? The woman who controlled every narrative finally losing the plot. I should have hit her. I wanted to. Instead, I smiled, slow and surgical. "You're right, Ava. Poetic as hell. But you forgot one thing." "What's that?" "I always keep a backup."
I pulled my phone out and hit play. Her voice filled the room, clear, crisp, and beautifully damning. I'd recorded our entire conversation from the moment I walked in. Ava froze. "You recorded the truth?" "Yeah," I said. "Call it insurance." Her face twisted. "You think that's gonna save you? I didn't break the law." "Maybe not," I said. "But you just confessed to manipulation during an active investigation. And that little stunt with the fake reports? That's called obstruction." Her eyes went wide. I walked to the door, heels clicking like punctuation. "I'll let you know how poetic the trial feels." Back in my car, I exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. My phone pinged again. Riley, my cyber guy. "Got something. You'll want to see this." He sent a link to a hidden drive. Inside, financial transfers, timestamps, and communication logs. Liam had wired Ava $30K through an offshore intermediary right before the divorce was finalized. Consulting fee. Right. It all snapped together like dominoes. Ava had been his plant from the jump, his emotional spy, feeding him updates, access, timing. And when he bailed, she kept his game going for herself. But now I had her voice, his payments, and a trail leading to one conclusion. They'd both tried to bury me. That night, I didn't cry, didn't rage. I poured a drink, opened my laptop, and started typing my statement for the board's legal counsel. Every timestamp, every digital breadcrumb, every recording. When I was done, I attached all the files and CC'd the SEC contact who'd been investigating the breach. Sent at 11:59 p.m. because poetic timing matters. By sunrise, my inbox exploded. Half the board wanted an emergency meeting. PR flagged me for a potential redemption narrative. Apparently, betrayed executive exposes corporate espionage tested well in focus groups. Gross. But fine, I'd use it. Then, around 8 a.m., another message popped up. From an unknown address. "You think this is over? Check the last page of the report." I opened the PDF again. Scrolled. Last page. A transaction I didn't recognize, under my name. A $500K transfer to a Cayman account dated 2 weeks ago. My breath hitched. I hadn't made that. Someone was still using my credentials. I called Riley instantly. "Tell me you see that." He was already typing. "Yeah, it's a spoof. Someone cloned your digital signature. Whoever it is, they're real good. You got any enemies left?" I laughed bitterly. "Only the living ones." He paused. "Wait, the server that issued that transfer, it's coming from inside your company's network." My blood ran cold. "That's impossible. My access was restricted last week." "Not yours," he said. "Your assistant's." Jenna. The nervous redhead who'd replaced Chloe. Sweet, stammering Jenna, who always called me Miss Monica like we were in a damn Southern debutante movie. I went still. "Track it. Now." 30 minutes later, Riley called back. "Got her. She's routing funds to the same shell companies Liam used. This isn't just identity theft, it's coordinated." I sat back in my chair stunned. So this wasn't just betrayal, it was legacy. Liam's little empire of manipulation had outlived him. Jenna was a plant too, but why keep going? What was left to take? Then it hit me. The startup. The one I'd secretly invested in. It was about to go public. If someone framed me for fraud tied to that launch, I'd lose everything. I checked the date. The IPO was in 48 hours. Game on. I didn't sleep. For 2 days straight, I coordinated with Riley, built a paper trail, looped in a silent partner from legal. If they wanted a show, I'd give them one. On IPO day, I walked into that glass tower like a damn movie villain in heels. Calm, composed, dangerous. Halfway through the meeting, the CFO started with her usual numbers pitch. Then, right as the presentation ended, I stood. Before we pop champagne, I said, I'd like to present some supplemental materials. Everyone turned. I clicked the remote. The screen flickered, and then came the digital receipts. Transfers, login trails, Liam's company name, Jenna's credentials, Ava's confession. Every dirty thread tied neatly in a bow. The room went dead quiet. The chairwoman leaned forward. Miss Harris, what exactly are we looking at? The truth, and the receipts that prove it. The legal team dove in. Instantly, Jenna tried to sneak out. Security stopped her. PR went white as a ghost. I just stood there watching it unfold, the taste of poetic justice sweeter than any champagne. But even in that moment of victory, I felt it, an itch, something unfinished. Because I still didn't know who'd sent those envelopes. The watcher. The one who'd started this whole spiral. That night I came home to one last envelope, on my counter. Inside, just a single photo. Me, standing on that balcony the night I got the first one. From the same angle. Someone had been there that night and written on the back in clean block letters, "We're not done." Rehook. End of part 4. The next morning my phone rang. Unknown number. A voice I hadn't heard in months said, "Hey Monica, miss me?"
Hey, Monica. Miss me? That voice. That damn voice. The one I swore I'd never hear again. I froze. Coffee mug midair. Heart thudding hard enough to echo. Liam? A low chuckle. You sound surprised. You're supposed to be in Mexico or hell. Either works. Cute, he said. But nah, sweetheart. I've been right here, watching. My blood turned to ice. You're lying. You always did hate surprises, he drawled. But don't hang up, not yet. We need to talk. I sat down, every muscle tense. Talk? You torched my reputation, stole my money, and used my best friend like a pawn. You don't get to talk. Mon, come on. You really think I did all that alone? You're smarter than that. You're damn right I am, and you're about to find out exactly how smart. He laughed softly, calm, cocky, the same tone he used when he used to smooth talk investors. You always make everything about winning. What if I told you this was never about money? Then what was it about, Liam? Watching me burn? No, he said, watching you break. I went silent. The way he said it, it wasn't anger. It was devotion twisted into obsession. You lost your mind, I muttered. He exhaled, a sigh like smoke through the line. You made me small, Monica. You emasculated me in every boardroom, every dinner party, every goddamn whisper about how you were the genius. I built you up, and then you forgot who taught you the game. You didn't teach me the game, I said coldly. You just reminded me why I had to play dirty. A pause. Then, still fiery. I missed that. Cut the crap. What do you want? To finish what we started, he said. You, me, face to face. No cops, no lawyers. Just closure. I almost laughed. Closure. From the guy who faked wire transfers and framed me for fraud? You want to know who really cloned your signature? He said, voice lowering. Meet me at Pier 39, midnight. Bring your little hacker boy if you want proof. You're insane. Maybe, but you'll come. Click. Deadline. I sat there for a full minute, breathing through my teeth. Every rational cell in my brain said stay home, but curiosity, it's a disease I never cured.
So at 11:30 p.m., I grabbed my coat, gunmetal hills, and the tiny flash drive Riley had prepped.
He begged me not to go. I told him to trust me. He said, "You sure this ain't suicide?" I smiled. "Oh, no, babe. It's theater." The pier was quiet, lit by sodium lamps that made the water look like liquid bronze. The city hummed behind me, indifferent. I spotted him leaning against the black car, tanned, clean-cut, expensive as sin. Liam Langston in the flesh. My ex-husband. My ghost. "Still got that rich villain aesthetic," I said, stepping closer. He grinned. "Still got that bite." "You called me out here to flirt?" "To explain." He gestured toward the car. "Take a walk with me." I eyed him. "You think I'm stupid enough to get in your car?" "You were once." "Yeah, and look how that ended." He smirked. "Fair. But I'm not your enemy, Monica." "Bullshit." "Jenna was never working for me," he said suddenly. "She was working for them." I frowned. "Them who?" He reached into his jacket, slowly, and pulled out a file. Tossed it onto the hood. Inside were photos, my old board members, and one face that made my stomach flip. Evelyn Cross, the CEO who'd mentored me when I first joined the company. "No," I whispered. "She's retired." "Retired," Liam said, "but still pulling strings. She wanted your startup gone. I was her leverage. You were her pawn." My head spun. "You expect me to believe that?" "Believe what you want, but you're not the only one who got played." He looked tired, older, like guilt finally found him. "When you left me, she offered me a deal. Said she'd clear my debt if I handed her your IP files. I did it, but she double-crossed me too. I went bankrupt." "Cry me a river," I said flatly. "You still ruined me." He nodded slowly. "I did, and I can't take that back. But I can give you something better." He pulled out a flash drive identical to mine. Every offshore transfer, every shell corp Evelyn used to bury your name. Proof she funded the Cayman account. She used my network, my name, then ghosted me. "Why?" I whispered. "Because you were her biggest threat, the prodigy who outgrew her shadow." Silence. Just the waves hitting the pier and the sound of my world reshuffling again. "You're lying," I said weakly. "Am I?" He smiled sadly. "I came to say sorry, Monica, and to make sure you survive this." Before I could answer, a car screeched up. Headlights flared. A woman stepped out. Tall, silver hair, wrapped in a camel coat that screamed old money and blood on the lining. Evelyn Cross. She said, her voice cutting the air clean, "Looks like the band's back together." "You set me up," I said, stepping forward. "Don't flatter yourself," she said. "You were collateral damage. You played too loud for too long. The board needed a scapegoat. Liam volunteered. You took the fall. Everyone wins." "Except me," I said. "Oh, you'll recover," she said, smirking. "Pretty faces always do." Something in me snapped. I pulled out my phone, hit the screen, and Riley's voice came through the car's speakers. "Live and recording, Monica." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "What?" "Every word," I said, calm as ice. "Broadcast to SEC, company legal, and 2 reporters who owe me favors. So please, keep talking." Her smile faltered. "You wouldn't dare." "You really don't get it," I said. "You taught me how to play dirty, but I learned how to play smart." She lunged forward, trying to grab the phone, but Liam blocked her. "Don't," he warned. "She'll bury you." Evelyn's voice dropped to venom. "You'll regret this, Monica." "Already did," I said. "Now it's your turn."
Riley's voice crackled through. Got it all. Upload complete. Evelyn went still, her whole empire dissolving in real time. Liam stepped back, face unreadable. Guess that's checkmate, he said. I looked at him. For her, yeah. For you, not even close. He blinked. What? I held up my own flash drive. That's your copy. Mine's the master file, the one that ties your fingerprints to every transfer she made. I'm sending both of you down. His jaw clenched. Monica, save it. I wanted to watch you break. Newsflash, babe. I don't break. I rebuild sharper. Police sirens wailed in the distance again. How poetic. Evelyn hissed, You'll go down too. Maybe, I said, stepping close, but I'll go viral first. She flinched. Liam laughed softly. You really are something else. No, I said, turning away. I'm just done being your project. The cops swarmed in seconds later. Evelyn was cuffed first, still cursing my name. Liam didn't resist, just looked at me one last time and said quietly, You win. No, I said. I survived. That's better. By the next week, my name was cleared. SEC filed charges against Cross Holdings. The IPO relaunched, and investors called me the comeback queen. Whatever. I didn't care about the glory. I cared about peace. One morning, I drove out to the lake, the one Liam and I used to visit before everything rotted. I stood there with a coffee, same marble sky, same smell of cold and memory. Then I tossed his old bracelet, the one engraved Forever Yours, into the water. It hit the surface with a quiet plunk. Gone, just like him. I walked away without looking back. I'd spent too many years doing that. The world didn't owe me happy endings, but it sure as hell owed me justice. And I'd taken it, piece by piece, like diamonds from fire. They say revenge tastes sweet. Nah, it tastes like burnt coffee and freedom, and I'll sip that every damn morning.
If this story touched your heart or made you feel every twist of pain and justice, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything and keeps these emotions alive on screen. And before you go, leave your valuable thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how this